I remember being very reluctant to start Gantz when it was somewhat still in the heyday of its popularity. It had been out for a good while, about 5 years or so for the manga, and I think the anime had been out for 1 or 2 years. And of course, angsty teenagers in the States loved it because it was brutal, bloody, gory, overly sexual. Because, the world of Gantz kind of takes place in this. It seemed like a pocket dimension almost until you found out it was really taking place. So, our main characters are Kei and Masuro. Masuro is a very good natured person, always trying to do the right thing, and he's very big, so he can get away with a lot of things, whereas Kei is kind of more of a loser who has a lot of cynicism. He doesn't really do a lot to help out other people, he's all about himself. And during one act of kindness that Masaro's doing, where he's trying to save an old man from getting run over by a train because he fell onto the tracks, Kay actually goes and helps him out. Unfortunately, instead of the old man dying, they die in the process of helping out. But instead of going to the afterlife, they end up in this weird random apartment building with this round orb. And as they're there, other people start to appear. And soon they find out that they're in this kind of life or death game, with the black sphere being called Gantz. And they're sent off to these random areas in Japan, usually uninhabited, to fight these weird monstrosities. They're basically sent on assassination attempts, bounty hunting missions to take down these weird, strange creatures, these alien-like beings. And they're given very little information at the beginning. That's the problem. It's a lot of situations that could be easily dealt with if they just knew the rules from the onset, or even believe the rules. That's the thing. But they soon find, when a few of them end up dying, that this is reality. That there is no second chance after they die from this. And so as they go forward, they get weapons, power suits that give them incredible abilities for a certain amount of time. As long as you don't overclock your suit, you'll be fine. But as they go forward in order to try to survive, many of their friends and allies end up dying off in certain situations. So it seems like a simple enough premise, but within the series, a lot of what goes down is a lot of sexual situations between characters, a lot of bloody, gory deaths for certain characters. It becomes very hard to get attached to certain people because anyone could die at any moment. And as the series goes forward, a lot of the foes that they face are just so impossible to overcome because some of them are just that powerful. Every time it seems like our group of allies, the good guys more or less, are starting to come out on top, something happens and you lose another ally, you lose someone you've gotten close to, you lose someone who actually started to feel significant, and everything just starts to go to shit. It's just like for every moment of optimism that's built upon, things just go to pot not soon afterward. And the real problem starts to become when the world of Gantz, that seems to just be this other place you go to fight these monsters and then continue about your day, things start spilling off into the real world, and that's where the real problems start to arise. Gantz can be fun, but it can be cruel at the same time. It's honestly a teenage edgelord's dream. Violence, action, sex, all that good stuff. And while I wouldn't say that there isn't anything deeper to the story than just that, it starts to kind of get a little up its own ass as it goes, for lack of a better term. Once you start getting towards the end of things, it starts to go into the nature of humanity, whether or not we should be allowed to survive, what are we in the great scheme of things. Honestly, the biggest selling point for Gantz is just through a lot of its artwork. Hiroya Oko is absolutely a master when it comes to art. and his storylines are definitely not without merit. It's just that sometimes it's hard to take some of his stuff seriously because there's usually some weirdly perverted nature to it beneath the surface. And I'm not saying that how he does things is bad. No, not at all. It's just not for everyone. Honestly, there are certain moments where even the really sexy stuff just kind of comes off as almost like, why did you choose to do this? There are times when he focuses so much on the sexual relations of characters that it ends up getting very tangled and twisted, and it's kind of weird on what he chooses to focus on, because it's just like, do you want this to be more about the storyline of what's happening or more about the sexual relations of the characters? Because he goes in way too much depth and even goes into a little bit too much depth with some of the action too. And I make that come off as like a bad thing, but sometimes he'll focus so much on the brutality of a situation and linger on it far more than I'm kind of comfortable with. Or someone ends up looking pathetic and sad and despondent, and he'll focus so much on them crying and snot running down their face and all that, and it's just like, it's hard to take some of his work seriously to a certain degree. And none of that would be bad. None of it would be bad. But then you'll get a scene that completely sidesteps all of the gratuitous violence or the sexual nature of things, and it'll go into something just like mundane. And it's just like, what do you want me to focus on here, man? What's going on? What is your train of thought with how you write? Because terrible situations will just happen. Sexual situations will just happen and be focused on for entire chapters. Like, the way characters respond to things are just off. And there's no other way to put it. The way characters respond to things is just off. And a lot of his stuff has been memeable because of that. Like Inuyashiki. You go through that series and things will happen and certain characters don't respond to it the way a normal person would. And in some cases, that's okay, because certain characters are psychopaths, or they have weird mental things about them. And in other cases, he will deal with things, and those things won't be dealt with as if, oh, this is some major thing that happened. It'll be dealt with in the perspective of, oh, it was just like, I don't know, a mailbox fell over. A general inconvenience for most people. The funny thing about me reading Gantz is that I read it consistently up to a certain point, and that certain point was very unfortunately barely over 10 chapters before it finished. I think like 11 chapters. So, at any point, I could just go and finish the series and know if it was worth anything substantial towards the end. But, I don't know. I kinda don't want to go back to it because that world just grips you in a way that is almost uncomfortable, but addictive all at the same time. And I think that's ultimately the appeal of Gantz. It can be so wild and weird and strange, but it sucks you in with all of those elements. And if anyone were to say they don't like it, I would perfectly understand. But there's just something deeper beneath the surface that, I mean, give it a chance. You never know. But tell me, how did you get into Gantz? Did you get in through the anime? Did you read the manga? Did you go further beyond that and read all of its substantial spin-offs? Gantz is just such a weirdly culturally incorporated thing, despite all the violence and sexual natures and all that. It's just permeated into so many other forms of media as well, mostly in Japan, even stuff that don't get nearly as violent or nearly as sexual. So I really do wonder, what is the appeal of Gantz to you? Why did you get into Gantz? How did you get into Gantz? Did you read the manga up until the end? What did you think about the ending? Is the ending worth reading? I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.